So as they say, first you start with $1 billion and then you go from there. And it's true that there are a few people who have really brought mega bucks to this industry with visionary dreams about really making a big difference. And they are. But there's also tons of opportunities for other businesses based on space. And I'm going to assume that you will all be successful in your business and make millions of dollars. But then, what next? After you make this money, I think that's when the real work begins. What do you do with it? And there's lots of options. So many years ago, my husband and I got a call at 3 a.m. in the morning from a very drunk and very happy cousin who had just won $5 million in the Canadian lottery. And that's all tax-free up there. So he was very excited and had lots of plans. He wanted to give $1,000 to all of his cousins. And coming from a good Catholic French-Canadian family, there were a lot of cousins. But as we crawled back into bed that night, I said to Marcel, I'm not so sure this is a good thing. And as it happened, slowly it was a downward spiral. And today we actually support this cousin with a monthly allowance just to keep him afloat. So money is not the answer to everything. And in business, as in life, it takes passion, commitment, drive, perseverance, creativity. And if you take all those things, good things really can happen. So I came to the space world in a different route than probably most of you. And I have to make a disclaimer here. I am not a space expert or a space geek or a business or policy expert. But I'm very glad to say that two of my excellent staff are here today. Dr. Mike Simpson is our executive director, and Ian Christensen is our brand new project manager for commercial space. So I hope that you get a chance to really talk to them because they can discuss more of the nitty-gritty. I've been accused of kind of keeping my head in the clouds, so to speak, and I prefer to focus on that overall effect. How will we create a more secure world on this fragile blue planet that we live on? So as my husband began to make more and more money, we began to have a dream that we could really do something with that money, something that would contribute to a better world. So where do you begin with this? Well, I did extensive research about everything, philanthropy, social change, movements, trends, and out of all this, I began to develop some theories. So one, that change happens more often when a better idea comes along. That's Buckminster Fuller. And two, it is easier to create the positive than to undo the negative. It's also a lot more fun. And three, it takes a village. The problems we face are way too big to solve alone, and we need all of our human resources. And so with all these, those human resources, one of the most particular, we need the women who have too long been left out of the decision-making process. And as Einstein said, you can't solve the problems with the same thinking that created them. And you have to admit that it's been mostly male thinking that have created our problems, so bring on the women. And also, as much wisdom as us gray hairs have developed over the years, we really need the young people. And they have a whole new worldview and a new energy. And they seem to have this innate ability to understand technology, which is something I got left out on. And that's part of why I enjoyed working with Space Gen and how I first met Ariane. So with all these ideas kind of floating around in my head, and then the kind of synchronicity of the universe, one day I discovered outer space. And all the ideas started to fall into place. And I saw that here was this unique opportunity that we could come up with that better idea. We could create the positive. We're all very reliant on the use of outer space. And yet it's still the new frontier, the Wild West. How are we going to manage it as more and more opportunities open up? how can we ensure that our children and our children's children will be able to reap the same benefits and more that we have today? So we do live in a competitive world, but competition relies on everyone understanding the rules of the game. Without it, you have chaos. And in chaos, nobody wins. And so we have yet to figure out what are the rules of the game for space. So one of the reasons my husband has been so successful in business is his ability to focus on the long term and the big picture. He reads everything, looks at what's related to each other, how are the dots connected. And because of this ability, he was able to successfully predict the housing collapse. So he sold all of his real estate at the very height of the market, and then invested his money against the stock market. And then when everything was at bottom, he was out buying like crazy because he was one of the few people with cash on hand. So that's what we at Secure World Foundation try to do, to look at the long term, to focus on the big picture, to ask the right questions. We don't have the answers, although we have come up with a few good ideas along the way. But we facilitate progress on these issues by bringing the right people to the table at the right time to have the collective conversation about finding the answers. What are the new structures that we're going to need? How are we going to resolve disputes? Who's responsible for what? So we've been meeting with governments, the military, space agencies, scientists, international organizations. And we think that commercial space really belongs at this table too. And what would happen to your plan if outer space became so congested with debris that we could no longer sustain it? So you have a vested interest in that big picture. And at Secure World Foundation, we want to make sure that your needs and your creative voice and your bold thinking can come to the table as the world begins to seek answers on how will we make this sustainable? How can we continue to reap the benefits from it? So with every investment, you always look at your ROI. And in business, that's easy. Did you make money? But in the nonprofit world, it's a lot harder. Have we made a difference? Is the world more secure because we're here? Well, we're still here, so that's a good thing. But also, there are increasing collaborations happening that I feel we've had a role in. And things like better coordination for disaster management, international working groups responding to asteroid threats, greater data sharing on space situational awareness, and developing the best practices for the responsible use of space and norms of behavior. So every Tuesday morning, I get the immense pleasure and joy of reading our weekly staff reports. And I am amazed at what a small staff of 10 actually gets done in a week. But as I read the reports, I am inspired by the thoughtful conversations, the analysis, the critical thinking that is going on by very smart people around the world looking at these issues. And it brings me great hope and also reinforces the idea that I did make a good investment with my money. I am pleased with my return. And it's much better than buying a fancy house that looks like Versailles or some such thing. But it's never going to be a done deal, because as long as there's opportunities, there will be challenges. And but I do believe that we are weaving a security blanket based on collaborative relationships and structured cooperation that is based on our common and shared reliance on the benefits that we receive from outer space. And I do think that all of us together, we can make a difference. Thank you.